Hollywood sold us dreams, but behind the spotlight, some stories never made it to the screen. Get ready to step into the darker side of Hollywood history. In this gripping, unsettling journey, we uncover tragic on-set incidents, on-set firearm accidents, and devastating accidents that unfolded over the decades. Brace yourself, because the deeper you go, the more you will realize the risks were very real. And when the cameras stopped rolling, how many never made it out unscathed? Stay with me, because the fifth story is truly worth the wait. Now, let's begin. Chapter 2, Harold Lloyd. Harold Lloyd was one of the bright lights of early Hollywood, a man whose charm, timing, and fearless physical comedy helped define an entire era of film. Audiences saw a cheerful optimist on screen. But behind that smile was a moment that nearly ended everything. It happened on August 24th, 1919, during what should have been a routine publicity shoot. Lloyd picked up what he believed was a harmless prop, a common enough tool in an industry still learning its limits. But this was not a prop. It was real. In an instant, everything changed. The explosion tore through his hand, taking his right thumb and index finger. The blast was so violent it left him temporarily without sight, his career hanging by a thread. For many, that would have been the end, a quiet exit from a brutal industry that rarely forgives weakness. But Lloyd did not disappear. Instead, he adapted. He returned to the screen wearing a specially designed prosthetic glove, concealing his injury from audiences who never once suspected the truth. Frame by frame, stunt by stunt, he continued to push the limits of what a man in his condition should attempt, climbing buildings, dangling from heights, performing feats that left crowds breathless. What makes this story linger is not just the accident, it is what came after. Because every time Harold Lloyd smiled on screen, every time he performed another daring feat, he carried a secret one, born from a single devastating moment on August 24th, 1919, that could have ended it all. Chapter 3, Charles Chandler. In 1915, Hollywood was still finding its voice raw, ambitious, and dangerously unrefined. On the set of The Captive, director Cecil B. DeMille was determined to capture something audiences had never truly seen before. Realism so convincing it blurred the line between performance and reality. For one particular scene, soldiers were to blast open a locked door. To heighten authenticity, the extras were issued real ammunition. The shots rang out with force, splintering wood, delivering exactly the intensity DeMille wanted. Then came the reset. The order was given reload with blanks for the next take. But somewhere in that brief transition, something went wrong. One rifle, just one, still carried a live round. When the cameras rolled again, no one suspected the danger. The scene began as planned noise, motion, controlled chaos. Then a single shot broke through that illusion. It was not staged. It was not safe. It was real. An extra standing in position identified in some accounts as Charles Chandler, though historical records remain in dispute over the precise name was struck in the head. There was no time to react, no second chance. The set fell silent in a way no script could ever capture. In an industry chasing realism, this was the cost no one was prepared to face. A moment meant to entertain became a tragedy that echoed far beyond the frame. And it leaves behind a question that still lingers today. When does the pursuit of realism cross a line that can never be undone? Because no scene, no shot, no moment of realism is worth a human life. The truth is, when people start believing that spectacle matters more than safety, someone always pays the price. Chapter 4, Addison Jack Randall. In 1945, Hollywood was deep in its golden glow westerns, uniforms, and heroic rides across open land. On the set of the Royal Mounted Rides again, actor Addison Jack Randall was doing what so many stars of that era took pride in, performing his own stunts. It was meant to be a simple, high-speed horseback pass for the camera. Nothing unusual, just a man, a horse, and the kind of rugged authenticity audiences expected. Randall rode hard, cutting across the frame with precision and confidence. Then, in a split second that no one could have planned, something startled his horse. Accounts vary between a gust catching his hat or a loose sheet of paper blowing across the path. Either way, the rhythm between rider and horse broke. Leaning from the saddle at full speed, Randall stretched just a little too far. Balance shifted. Control was gone. He fell hard and unforgiving, striking a tree with devastating force. The cameras stopped. The crew rushed in. There was no applause, no second chance to get it right. Despite immediate medical attention, Addison Jack Randall did not survive. When you look back on it now, it is not just the accident that stays with you. It is how small the moment was that caused it, not a grand stunt, not a planned risk, just a single instant of motion under pressure, one that cost everything. Because in this business and in life, it is often not the big dangers that bring you down. It is the quiet ones, the ones that seem harmless until they are not. Chapter 5, Eric Fleming. Let us travel back to 1966, where the filming of High Jungle took a tragic turn on September 28th. Deep in the remote landscapes of Peru, far from studio lights and controlled sets, the production was nearing its final stretch. For Eric Fleming, a seasoned actor known for his strength and commanding presence on Rawhide, this was just another demanding location shoot. But nature does not follow scripts. The Hualaga River moved with a quiet menace that day, wide, restless, unpredictable. Fleming and fellow actor Nico Minardos were traveling by dugout canoe, navigating waters that locals understood but outsiders often underestimated. There were no cameras rolling in that moment, no rehearsals, no safety net. Then it happened. The canoe overturned. In seconds, the calm surface turned violent. Minardos fought his way through the current and reached safety, but Fleming was not as fortunate. The river took hold of him strong, relentless, unforgiving. What followed was not a dramatic rescue scene, but a long, agonizing wait. For 3 days, search teams combed the river, hoping for a miracle that never came. When his body was finally recovered, the reality set in Hollywood had lost a man not to spectacle, not to a stunt, but to the raw power of the natural world. Eric Fleming was 41 years old. There is something sobering about this kind of story. No explosions, no misfired weapons, just water moving the way it always has. It reminds you that sometimes the greatest danger is not what we create, but what we choose to step into, believing we are still in control. Chapter 6. Peter O'Toole. This next story is one of the most colorful behind-the-scenes anecdotes associated with the classic film The Lion in Winter, made in 1968, though it is worth noting that no authoritative historical source has been able to fully verify every detail. According to the widely circulated account, the legendary Peter O'Toole was involved in a boating accident during production that resulted in a serious injury to the tip of one of his fingers. In true O'Toole fashion, a man known for his remarkable composure and larger-than-life character, he reportedly handled the situation with extraordinary calm, carefully preserving the injured fingertip and wrapping it in bandages before seeking medical attention. Weeks later, upon removing the bandages, he reportedly discovered that the healing had taken an unexpected turn. It is a story as strange as it is memorable, and one that reflects the kind of extraordinary resilience and unflappable spirit that Peter O'Toole was known for throughout his entire career. Chapter 7. Gianni Russo. Let us move to a moment where fiction slipped a little too close to reality, this time on the set of The Godfather in 1972. During one of the film's most intense confrontation scenes, James Caan, playing Sonny Corleone, was fully locked into character. When Sonny loses control, it does not look gentle. Caan grabbed Gianni Russo, who played Carlo Rizzi, and in the heat of the moment, hurled him over a fence. Then, without slowing down, he slammed a garbage can into him, hard, aggressive, and far more forceful than anyone anticipated. On screen, it plays like powerful, raw, convincing acting exactly what the scene demanded. But behind the camera, it was not just acting. Gianni Russo did not walk away unscathed. The impact left him with 2 broken ribs, real injuries from a scene meant to simulate violence, not deliver it. And that is the part people often forget. When actors go all in, when the line between performance and reality starts to blur, sometimes the body pays the price. Because in moments like this, you have to ask, when does commitment to a role stop being dedication and start becoming something far more dangerous? Chapter 8. A.J. Bakunas. In 1978, during the production of Steel, the pursuit of bigger, bolder stunts pushed one man to a point of no return. A.J. Bakunas, a skilled stunt performer doubling for George Kennedy, was already known for his courage. He had completed a daring freefall from the 9th floor of a construction site in Lexington, Kentucky, setting a record that few would even consider attempting. But in this line of work, records do not stay untouched for long. When Bakunas learned that fellow stunt performer Dar Robinson had surpassed his achievement, something shifted. It was no longer just about the job. It became personal, a matter of pride, a need to prove once again that he could go higher and come out on top. He returned to attempt an even more demanding fall this time, from a staggering 315 feet above the ground, the equivalent of the 22nd floor of Kincaid Towers in Lexington. A height that left no room for error, no margin for hesitation. On the day of the attempt, everything appeared to be in place. The setup was checked. The landing airbag was positioned below. Cameras were ready. Bakunas stepped forward, committed as ever, and jumped. For a brief moment, it looked flawless, the kind of precision that only comes from experience and absolute focus. But as he descended, the airbag split on impact. There was nothing left to absorb the force of the fall. What was meant to be a triumphant reclaiming of a record became a tragedy that echoed through the stunt community. Bakunas was lost not because he lacked skill, but because in a world driven by extremes, even the most precise preparation is not always enough. And perhaps that is the hardest truth to accept in the chase to go higher, faster, further. There comes a point where the risk stops being a challenge and becomes a gamble no one can truly win. Chapter 9. Boris Sagal. Now we step into one of the most chilling moments ever to unfold behind the scenes, an incident so sudden, so unforgiving, that it barely gave anyone time to react. During the production of the miniseries World War III, director Boris Sagal was working on location at Timberline Lodge in Oregon. It was the kind of shoot that demanded precision helicopters, movement, tight coordination. Everything had to be timed just right. As the helicopter touched down, Sagal exited just another routine movement in a long day of filming. But in environments like this, routine can be deeply deceptive. The noise, the wind, the constant motion, it all creates a space where a single misstep can become catastrophic. Sagal turned in the wrong direction. There was no warning, no second to correct it. He stepped directly into the path of the spinning tail rotor blades, an invisible, lethal force moving faster than the eye could follow. The impact was immediate and devastating. Crew members rushed in, but the damage had already been done. He was airlifted to a hospital in Portland, where every effort was made to save him, but the injuries were too severe. 5 hours later, Boris Sagal was gone. It is the kind of tragedy that lingers not because of its complexity, but because of how quickly it happened. No stunt, no calculated risk taken for spectacle, just a single step in the wrong direction at the wrong moment, and the outcome was irreversible. In filmmaking, we often think the danger lives in the action, but sometimes it waits in the quiet moments, when everything seems perfectly under control, right before it is not. Chapter 10. Vic Morrow. Let us now look at one of the most devastating incidents in the history of American filmmaking, the tragedy that occurred on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie, released in 1983. On the night of July 23, 1982, what was supposed to be a controlled sequence, using pyrotechnics, quickly spiraled into chaos. Explosions were set off as part of the scene, while a helicopter hovered dangerously low overhead to capture the intensity of the moment. For a brief instant, everything followed the plan. Then a blast struck too close. The force from the pyrotechnic destabilized the aircraft in midair. In an instant, control was lost. The helicopter began to spin, its rotor blades cutting through the night air with deadly force. Actor Vic Morrow was directly in its path and was struck by the main rotor. Nearby, two young children, Micah Din Lei and Renee Shin Yi Chen, were caught in the unfolding disaster and were unable to escape as the helicopter came crashing down. What unfolded in those seconds was not simply an accident. It was a complete collapse of oversight. A moment where multiple compounding risks converged into something irreversible. The aftermath sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Productions halted. Investigations were launched. New industry-wide safety regulations were introduced where none had previously existed. Because this was not just a tragedy on a film set, it was a stark reminder that when ambition outpaces safety, the consequences do not stay on screen. Chapter 11. Sylvester Stallone. Let us look at one of the most startling behind-the-scenes realities of one of the most iconic boxing sequences in cinematic history, Rocky IV. To make the showdown between Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago feel authentic. Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren decided to make it real. No carefully staged choreography, just two men stepping into the ring and throwing genuine punches. At first, it worked. The hits looked authentic. The tension felt undeniable. It was exactly the kind of raw intensity the film demanded. Then Lundgren delivered a punch directly into Stallone's chest. Hard, precise, and far more powerful than intended. At the time, Stallone brushed it off. Just another hit, just part of the scene. But hours later, his body told a very different story. His chest began to tighten. Breathing became difficult. He was rushed by emergency flight from Canada to St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica, California. Doctors quickly discovered the severity of his condition. His heart had begun to swell. His blood pressure had surged past dangerous levels, climbing above 200. He spent 8 full days in intensive care, 8 days between recovery and something far worse. It leaves you thinking, when the line between acting and reality disappears entirely, how much control is really left? No scene, no frame, no moment on screen is worth that cost. Chapter 12. Jackie Chan. Here is a remarkable and sobering behind-the-scenes moment from the iconic film Armor of God, released in 1986. During filming, Jackie Chan, renowned worldwide for performing his own stunts, was preparing for a sequence that required him to leap from a wall and catch a tree branch. It was a move he had performed many times before, but this time, something unexpected happened. As he leapt forward, the branch gave way. With no time to react, he fell a significant distance to the ground. The impact caused a serious head injury, a fracture to his skull that required immediate surgery, during which a small fragment of bone was removed from near his brain. It was a critical moment, one that could have changed everything. What followed, however, speaks to his extraordinary resilience. After surgery and a period of recovery, Jackie returned to his work carrying with him a lasting reminder of that day, along with some permanent effects on his hearing that remain with him to this day. Years later, he would reflect on that moment as one of the closest calls of his entire career. It stands as a powerful reminder that even the most experienced professionals can face unexpected risks, and that behind every great scene, there is a level of dedication and sacrifice that audiences rarely see. Chapter 13. Dar Robinson. Dar Robinson was a name that carried enormous weight in the world of stunt work. A man known for pushing limits and walking the edge with a kind of quiet, methodical confidence that few could match. From towering freefalls off structures like Toronto's CN Tower to precision-driven high-risk sequences, he built a reputation on accomplishing what others would not dare attempt. During the filming of Million Dollar Mystery in 1986, Robinson was set to perform a motorcycle stunt that, on paper, followed a familiar formula. The plan was straightforward: ride toward the edge, execute the move, and bring the bike under control. It was the kind of sequence he had handled before. Calculated, rehearsed, trusted. But something went critically wrong. As the stunt unfolded, it is believed the motorcycle's braking system failed at the crucial moment. Robinson had no way to slow down, no margin left to adjust. The machine carried him past the point where control could be regained. He went over the edge of a 40-foot embankment, struck a rocky ledge, and sustained injuries that took his life. For someone who had mastered risk, who had turned danger into precision, it was a devastating reminder that even the most experienced hands depend on factors entirely beyond their control: equipment, timing, conditions. When any one of them fails, the outcome can shift in an instant. Skill alone is not enough when something breaks, because when control is gone, there is no way to reclaim it. Chapter 14. Outro. Behind every magical moment of Hollywood lies a little-known reality, real risks, real consequences, and stories that never fade. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and take care of yourselves.